The Washington Capitals walk into a bar. Everybody orders a drink. They finish their drink and they order another. The bartender says, "Would you like to start a tab?" Out of nowhere, Alexander Ovechkin comes over and says, "No thanks, we're always done after the second round." Hello and welcome to Post to Post, the channel where we discuss all things hockey and all teams. Last night, the Pittsburgh Penguins defeated the Washington Capitals in Game 7. It was not really a close game. Marc-Andre Fleury was fantastic. The Washington Capitals couldn't score. And we have so many things to say about this series. And before we begin, I'm going to take off my Washington Capitals hat, put on my Ottawa Senators hat, because right now they're the only team, or the next team, who's able to beat Pittsburgh. And they friggin' better well do it, because I hate Pittsburgh now.
Oh, no,
All right,
no.
So before we get into this, I want to talk a little bit about the last game. So, Washington had more shots. Washington had double the face-off winning percentage as Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh blocked more shots. Washington had more giveaways. Pittsburgh had more takeaways. Holtby wasn't good enough. I just have that written down. Holtby was not good enough. And he just looked, like he didn't look bad, but he was just mediocre. He wasn't amazing. Fleury was beyond good. He was outstanding. And lastly, Ovechkin simply wasn't good enough. And I am done cheering for Washington because I'm so sick of this. It's endless. I don't understand it. How can you not do it? Is it 9 out of 10 times they've lost now to the Pittsburgh Penguins in the playoffs? I don't get it. Like,
Pittsburgh is 4-0 against Washington in Game 7s, by the way.
I just don't understand. And Justin Williams, the luck was on his side. I think he's 7-0 in Game 7s.
Not anymore.
It was his first loss last night, and I just thought there comes to a point where history has to be changed. I mean, the Red Sox, and the list goes on of these teams who have done this, and it just, I don't know. I'm so emotionally exhausted from Washington that I don't think I can ever have any faith in them whatsoever moving forward for at least a couple of years. I'm just done. I'm sorry. I'm frustrated. I'm really frustrated.
It shows. I can clearly hear your frustration.
And I'm not even that big of a Washington Capitals fan. Right. I think I have them ranked like 8th in my favorite teams or something like that. It's endless. The amount of mental frustration.
It is.
Watching the team.
It is.
You must be thrilled.
I could sit here right now and say, I told you so.
And you did.
I did, because I said Washington's going nowhere. But I'm not that type of person to brag or, state, hey, I was right, you were wrong. I mean, that's not what I'm all about. However, I will put in my 2 cents on constructive criticisms with Washington and what they need to do to right this ship. Because as of now, they have a lot of key guys that are going to be unrestricted free agents. And because of, the salary cap era, a lot of these guys will not be returning. And a lot of them are big players. TJ Oshie, Justin Williams, Shattenkirk, Alsner, and Winnick are all unrestricted free agents as of, July 1st, right? Yep. So these are a lot of key guys that add a lot of depth to their lineup. And I guarantee you, almost all, if not all of them, will not be with the team next year.
And we also need to think about the expansion draft as well.
Yeah, and you need to think of the expansion draft. Yeah, I mean, this team's going to see a drastic overhaul in the offseason.
As it should.
Now, I said in a previous video, like here I go kind of patting myself on the back, but it's leading up to a big point.
You're allowed to.
A big point. My point is, Washington will never win with Ovechkin. Do you not see it?
You've said that many times, and you've taken flack for it.
You need to see it. Please see it. They're not going to win with him. You know why? He's not a leader. He's a one-dimensional player. He's a goal scorer, okay? There are lots of goal scorers in the league. Are they captains? No. Are they relied upon to lead a team? No. Washington needs to stop centering the team around a goal scorer. They need a two-way player to become the face of that organization and lead them properly. Ovechkin's not a leader. Look at Phil Kessel. Phil Kessel's a shooter. He's a goal scorer. He's similar to Ovechkin in a lot of ways, minus the physical play, because my God, Phil Kessel avoids that like the plague. But they're very similar in their style of play when it comes to, you know, going down the wing, getting the shot. Phil Kessel has an office as well.
He does.
On the power play. So Pittsburgh looks at Kessel as a lethal weapon that they can insert on second, sometimes third line. That's Ovechkin's role in the game of hockey.
It is.
He's a pure goal scorer. You can't rely on him to lead a team and be defensively responsible. Last night, there was only one Washington Capitals player that was on the ice for both goals, Alexander Ovechkin. He had a direct contact, basically, with the play that led to both Penguins' goals because he was not strong enough in the defensive zone and his defensive responsibilities. To me, he could have broke up that play that led to that Brian Rust goal. Instead, he was behind the play and just slowly coming back. Mm-hmm. And that's the stuff that I've been preaching for so long. He's not defensively responsible.
I've defended Ovechkin in the past when you've been harsh on him. No longer. I'm done with Ovechkin, and it's not like he's a bad player. He's not a one-dimensional player. He's an amazing goal scorer.
He's a one-dimensional player.
Like a generational goal scorer. You know, and it would be nice to see him have the Phil Kessel effect where he goes to a team that already has a superstar bigger than Alexander Ovechkin, or if the new team didn't make Alexander Ovechkin out to be the number one superstar, and he could just have that secondary role. If he went to, I don't know, if he went to Dallas and Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin are already the current superstars there, if Alexander Ovechkin could slide in behind Jamie Benn, not saying Jamie Benn is more of a superstar than Ovechkin, but just hear me out. If he could do that and not have the pressure on his shoulders and stuff, I think that's...
Toronto learned. They had Phil Kessel. They basically centered their organization around Phil Kessel when they got him. Like, yeah, he wasn't the captain, but to me, he was the face of that franchise the years he was there. It was always Kessel this, Kessel that. It was all Phil Kessel. But they learned. They shipped him out because they realized, okay, we can't build a team around this guy. He's a one-dimensional player. Pittsburgh took him very willingly because Pittsburgh already had their leader and their franchise player and so on.
Yeah.
Bringing in Phil Kessel was just that extra, lethal dose that they needed to solidify depth and give goal scoring. That's what Alexander Ovechkin is. He is a goal scorer, and it shows. I mean, look at the seasons he's had of 60-plus goals, 50-plus goals. How many Rockets has he won? I think it's over 5, isn't it? I mean, that's his strong suit. That's his game, and that's what he needs to stick with. And as soon as the Washington Capitol organization realized this, they're going nowhere. It's been 12 years with Alexander Ovechkin as your face in your franchise, and what has happened? They haven't passed the second round once since they drafted the guy. Mm-hmm. It's just not going to happen for them. They need to strip him of the captaincy. Okay, there. I'm going to get flack for that. They need to strip him of the captaincy, and I think he will be thankful for it. And then he can just concentrate on scoring goals. Someone else can deal with all that leadership pressure. Someone else who's more capable of it. It's just not his strong suit. It's not. But I will give him a lot of respect because he actually stuck around with the media after the game.
Oh, absolutely.
And after that loss, that must have been so tough for him to do. But he earned respect from me for doing that.
Yeah, he's not a bad person. He's just not. He doesn't want it enough or something.
I'm riled up, man.
I can't explain it, but
I
want to read you this stat, and yeah, you already know it, but I'm going to read it for the people at home watching. So the Capitals own the best record in the NHL since the 2008-2009 series. Chicago and Pittsburgh rank number 2 and number 3 on that list and have 5 of the 8 Stanley Cups in that span. So
there you go.
There's a problem, and it needs to be fixed, and hopefully it will be fixed in the offseason because, as I said, I'm not really a Washington Capitals fan, but if I was a Washington Capitals fan, I would be way more pissed off than I am right now. So,
well, now something else I want to know too. Now, because of the Shattenkirk deal to bring him in as a rental, as well as bringing in Lars Eller, Washington has no picks in the first 3 rounds of this draft.
Really?
They have none.
I didn't know that.
In the first 3 rounds.
Wow.
So they have no picks in the first 3 rounds. They're losing 5 key guys to, become unrestricted free agents. And to me, TJ Oshie, Justin Williams, these are guys that they really need to try to keep around because TJ Oshie was, to me, phenomenal in the playoffs. But, due to cap, different contracts kicking in and so on, they're not going to be able to sign them all. It's just not going to be possible. So this is going to be a completely different Washington Capitals team. And what they need to decide right now, as soon as possible, do they want to keep Alexander Ovechkin as the face of this franchise? My answer is no. And I'm telling you, as soon as they do this, they will have success.
There was rumors on Twitter this morning of trading Alexander Ovechkin to the Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Golden Knights next year. And salary cap wise, that actually works out pretty well. And for Ovechkin, that probably actually works out pretty well too. He gets to go to a city and be in the spotlight, which he's had his whole life. He's been spoon-fed his entire life, so he would fit in nice there for what he wants, I guess. But the Las Vegas Golden Knights just don't have anything to offer the Washington Capitals to make that trade happen. And
the Washington Capitals aren't going to do it. They make way too much money off Alexander Ovechkin.
And that's what they want. They're all about selling jerseys and T-shirts and hats, and that's the whole point.
If they got rid of Alexander Ovechkin, they're losing their cash cow, and they're not going to allow that to happen. Exactly. What needs to happen then, obviously they're going to keep the guy. He makes them millions and millions of dollars. He sells out their arena. He's a highlight reel guy in the regular season. He's worth the admission to go watch him play. He really is. They need to strip him of the captaincy, bring him down a notch, and just tell him, Alex, we want you to score goals. Worry about nothing else. And then build out properly from there of what you need. And what Washington really needs is some more solidified two-way players to compensate for Alexander Ovechkin, because the guy is just not good enough defensively. He's really not. Go back and watch the 2 goals that Pittsburgh scored last night. He had a direct result in both of them because he didn't play well enough defensively. And you'll see it in the replays.
Well said. And this is kind of turning into an episode about the Washington Capitals rather than the
I'd like
series
to see them
between
succeed.
Pittsburgh.
I would too. Because I look at the Capitals and think, man, they've had some amazing teams. They've had some amazing players that I've been a fan of. I'd love to see for their fans, for this team to finally bring it all home to the fan base. They deserve it. They really do deserve it. But, as I said, it's not going to happen as long as they have Alexander Ovechkin as the captain and the face of their franchise. Not going to happen.
Boom. All right, let's switch over to Pittsburgh. Now, I know that they're your favorite team, and I said this earlier, but it pisses me off because the longer that Pittsburgh stays in, the more I hate them, and I already hated them before the playoffs because I'm just sick of watching them. So, Justin, screw you for your team doing well, and do you have anything to say about your stupid team?
Well, I'm going to be really careful because I don't want to get punched or anything, but...
we're Canadians, we don't hate each other.
I mean, there was a part of me that after Game 6, and that was just a pathetic effort and display by the Penguins. Yeah, I was nervous going into Game 7, I really was, but then I thought, okay, well, most of the Penguins core is still intact. They went to the Cup final in 08. They lost to Detroit. They won the Cup in 09. Then they went back, won the Cup last year. They're a very experienced team. And I said, they're definitely going to come out calm and collected in Game 7. I remember thinking to myself, as long as they can survive period 1, with everything just evened out, whether it's 1-1, 2-2, 0-0, as long as they survive the first, they have a shot, because I knew Washington would really come out hot, and that's exactly what they did. And that's what Washington needed to do in Game 7. They needed to come out hot like that. But they just couldn't capitalize, and Fleury was just phenomenal. But I found the further the game went, Pittsburgh just kept getting better.
Yeah, they did.
As the game went along. Now, another note is Washington outshot Pittsburgh all 7 games.
That doesn't surprise me.
All 7 games. Now, you could look at that and say, well, geez, Washington played better. They outshot Pittsburgh. It doesn't necessarily mean that, because shots don't necessarily transition to good scoring opportunities. I mean, you could fire 20 shots from the point, just risk them in. Well, it's 20 shots on net, but are they legit scoring opportunities? Not necessarily. Pittsburgh beat Washington at the defensive level. They're a more defensive-oriented team and more defensively capable. Washington had a ton of zone time against Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh really narrowed down the amount of golden opportunities they gave up in their own zone, because their coverage was on key, and they knew what it took by sacrificing the body, getting down and blocking shots. When you have a rookie, Jake Gensel, blocking shots in Game 7, that's what it takes to win a Stanley Cup.
The Pittsburgh Penguins had twice as many block shots as the Washington Capitals last night.
That's what it takes.
And I'm sure that was the trend through the whole series.
Yeah.
And you could say, oh, well, Washington had more shots. Of course, Pittsburgh has more block shots, but it doesn't matter. Pittsburgh had more block shots. They were the more defensively sounded team. And as much as I dislike Pittsburgh, their resiliency last night, and more importantly, the resiliency of Fleury to come back after letting in 8 goals or 9 goals into 2 games or whatever it was, for him to come back and post a shutout, man, that's pretty awesome.
They have a great ability to really forget things quickly. Say if they have a blowout loss, they forget it real quickly and then they bounce back the next game. They had a streak going for quite some time that they hadn't lost 2 games in a row for basically 3/4 of a season. It was something ridiculous like that. Unfortunately, I don't remember the exact length of that streak, but it just goes to show, as you mentioned, resiliency, and that's a championship caliber. They're a very experienced team, and it's going to be very tough for anybody to beat them out. However, I'm very excited for them to play Ottawa.
I'm very excited for Ottawa to hopefully eliminate Pittsburgh. That's why I'm wearing this hat. So
hey, that's 2 years in a row. Pittsburgh beat out the Washington Capitals, the President's Trophy winning Washington Capitals in the second round. Now, last year they beat them in the second round. They went on to win the Stanley Cup. They beat them in the second round in 2009. They went on to win the Stanley Cup. So I'm hoping 3 for 3.
I still can't believe the Washington Capitals have never been by the second round.
I can believe it.
Blows my mind. At least once.
I'm telling you, until they get rid of Alexander Ovechkin or strip him of the captaincy and just bring him down the lineup to focus on scoring goals, they're not going anywhere. And I've been saying it for years.
Yep. Well, I'm not going to defend him anymore. So
he's not good enough to lead a team to the cup. I'm sorry.
Do you have more to say? Not in this video, but I mean in the future. Do you have more to say about Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals? Because I know I do.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay, so look out for that in the future. We're going to be talking about Washington Capitals. And probably in this week's upcoming podcast, which is going to be released this coming Sunday. Today is Thursday.
Plus, keep in mind, once everything wraps up, we're going to be breaking down every single team. So that'll be a great opportunity to go through the entire lineup for the Washington Capitals.
We're going to go through the cap and the salaries and everything.
But one guy I want to give a shout out to is Wilson from Washington. My God, Tom Wilson. Wow. That guy... I'm a fan of Tom Wilson now.
Yeah.
I mean, I always kind of hated him and thought, well, the guy kind of runs around and so on. But man, if it wasn't for him, I don't know. At times, Washington wouldn't have had much mojo because he really got that team fired up game after game, going out, delivering big hits. And he was really kind of like a man possessed, like a one-man wrecking ball, kind of to steal that phrase from Mark Recchi, wrecking ball. He really rallied the troops and... he earned a lot of respect from me in this series.
He's a pretty hardcore guy in the ice, but if you've ever watched an interview of him off the ice, he's a really, really nice guy.
Yeah. It's a complete 180. I mean, that's the way you got to be, right?
Yeah, I also thought, I'll give a little bit of praise here to Washington. I thought Jay Beagle had a really, really good series. He's a very fast, very smart player. And there's some other guys too, but we're not going to go through the list. But let's just leave it at that. And we'll talk about this a little more in the future on the upcoming podcast that we film Saturday morning. Just a little bit of housekeeping news, I guess. We have Instagram now, yay! So go if you have Instagram, go follow us on Instagram, Post to Post Show on there. We're on Twitter, on Facebook. All the links are down below in the description. If this is your first video on Post to Post, we hope you hit the subscribe button. We're making tons of videos on a regular basis. If you like this video, hit the like button and let us know what you think below of the Washington versus Pittsburgh series. We're dying to know. And do you think Ovechkin should get traded or stay with Washington? Let us know. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Adios.